video is going to cover geotagged photos, and I'm going to demonstrate kind of what that looks like for when you go into the field and, let's say, have a tablet or a telephone or some other mobile device that can collect photos and also has the ability to collect the georeferencing information. So typically some type of coordinate, lat long or whatnot. There's a great little tool that Esri uses called geotagged photos to points, and just going to kind of show you what that looks like. One of the things that you're going to likely have is a folder or a bucket full of photos, and some of them may be georeferenced and some of them may not. One way to be able to check whether or not they are is by right-clicking and going to Properties, and you can look at some of the information here under Details. You'll find information about the actual type of camera, some of the kind of the pixel values and quality, when the actual photo was taken. But what we're interested in, at least initially, is is there GPS information here? And in this case, there is, and there's lat long that are provided as a part of this file, which is wonderful. So I'm going to close all this out, but I'm going to remember basically where this folder is located so that we can access it pretty quickly here. So I mentioned that Esri has this geoprocessing tool. If you're unfamiliar with how to find it, ArcGIS Pro has this great function called command search, where you can come up here. It was recently used, but we're going to actually type it out so you can see it. Geotagged, this helps if you can spell, geotagged photos to points. I'm going to select that, and you'll see the geoprocessing tool clears out and kind of starts new. It asks for two variables and actually generates this one for you. So really it asks for one. This is about as simple of a process as you can find. So we're going to start off by navigating to the actual input folder. You're going to navigate through your file structure, whether it be a shared drive on your local machine, OneDrive, whatever it may be. And you are going to actually grab the photo folder, if you will, that has all the photos associated. I want to show you something. If you double click it, you're going to find out that the container at least appears empty. And that's because Esri, or ArcGIS Pro, is actually asking for the input folder. Okay, so I'm going to go back a level, scroll back down, select the folder. I'm not going to double click it. I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to select it. So that way, this geoprocessing tool knows where to point to be able to grab that information. It's going to then generate an output feature class. If you hover over it, it's going to actually show you the location of that. If you want, you can actually go in and browse and change that as you see fit. We'll actually just throw it in here just to show, kind of functionality. Actually, we're going to go back to the folder level. And I'll say save. And it's going to actually save it as a shapefile because it wasn't in a file geodatabase or a personal geodatabase, but that's totally fine. And then, we're simply going to select run. And when you select run, hopefully you may have noticed that this image on this map here just came up. I can toggle it on and off. You'll note that I named it test so you can see it. So it has the ability to do just that. Bring in basically the geospatial information alone. You should notice here that while the path shows, the JPEG, which you can click on and see it, you should note that there's not an actual attachment at the bottom of this particular file. And I'll explain to you why. It's largely because it is a shapefile as opposed to a feature class, okay? And so what we're actually going to do is remove this and let it go back and default. So now it's a feature class again. And this again by hovering over this, you can see where it says geotagged photos demonstration.gdb. That's the file geodatabase that we're referencing. And then it's the / and then the name of what we're doing here. So what's neat is, what you didn't see in the shapefile GUI, is you get an option to add these photos as an attachment. So we're going to do that again, just show concept here. I am going to back some of this off and call it test attachment test. Again, helps if you can spell. And then I'm going to hit run. And it's going to run. And you'll see that the other layer, attachment test, has now come into the frame here. So I'm going to turn off our old test. And you'll notice that the icon is still there, same geospatial information. So those points were co-located at the moment. Then you select on it, you'll see the exact same setup that you did with the shapefile, but now you can actually see the attachment to the feature class, which is pretty neat. So a couple more things I did want to show while kind of got you dealing with geotagged photos here. You can also add these photos to ArcGIS Online, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to actually navigate to that folder that we were just working in. And I'm going to zip those folders up. I'm just going to zip, let's say, these two, but you could do whichever ones you want. So you hold Shift or Control and select the ones that you want, and then you're going to send to and a compressed folder. And this is going to be test. I'm just going to call it test. So what we're going to want to do now, again, we've been able to geotag the photos and actually show them as points in ArcGIS Pro. But let's say we wanted to share this as a feature service through ArcGIS Online. A couple ways to do it, but this is probably the most simple. We've gone in, we've grabbed the two photos that we want. We're going to compress those to a zipped folder. And then now we're going to actually move over to ArcGIS Online. Let me open it up off screen, and then I will get in. Simply type in AGOL. You're going to log in. Make sure you choose the appropriate path or organization. This is going to look a little different depending on who you are. I'm an administrator, and so I just have some different views than most folks, but everyone's going to have these tabs across the top, or at least most of them. You're going to start by selecting content, and then come over here to new item in the upper left-hand corner. Select new item. Select your device or OneDrive or whatever it may be. And I am going to grab this test zipped folder that we found, or that we created a few moments ago. All right, so at this point, you're going to want to make sure that you change the file type, probably the most important. We know that the file is set. We just grabbed it. Now we're going to set the file type. There is a photos with locations option in here. Once you select that, you can leave this as a hosted feature layer. Several reasons why you would or wouldn't, but we're going to leave it for the purposes of this. I'm going to simply select next. I'm going to name it geotagged photos. Sorry, I do an underscore as I meant to. Photos demo, and then today's date. And I'm just going to save it to my content. I'm not going to assign any tags or categories or anything. I'm just simply going to hit next. It is working on publishing that service so that it can be used by other people or by yourself and other products or projects. So now that it has published, it's going to actually open to its, excuse me, it's kind of overview page here, but I'm going to open it up in a map viewer, and I'll actually show you how you can add that back to your ArcGIS Pro instance. You can see the geotagged photos demo, point layer has come in. Let's drill down in on it. Should have 2 points here, which are the two photos that we selected, which is great. It's kind of what we had expected. And you open it up and you can see the photo. So that's great. All right, so we're in ArcGIS Online in a web browser right now. We're going to navigate back over to ArcGIS Pro. I actually want to go back in and add a data point. Add data, data, and then under portal and my content, you will see that you have a list of probably loose layers unless you have thrown them into web layers or whatnot. But as you will hopefully recall, we called this geotagged _ demo _ today's date. And it was produced just one moment ago. You can see today's date here and the time, which is 10:08. You can see that my clock says 10:09 of today's date. So you know that it is indeed the version that we're looking for. I'm going to select it and then say OK. And it is going to end up drawing. And you can see that it came in right where we expected it to. Let it render. And then I'm going to select it, make sure that it opens up the photo we expect. And it does indeed do that. So great, it accomplished what we expected it to do. So anyways, hopefully you find some value in this and see there's some kind of neat functionality behind it. And yeah, I hope it was helpful, and I hope you find it maybe inspiring to think of different things that maybe you can do in the future. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions.